You know, sometimes it is quite nice to have a change of scenery while you work, and especially so if you can make that change of scenery into a bit of an event. Doing that can help you mix things up, it can provide a burst of inspiration, and it can also transform a job you might have been putting off into something a bit more fun. So today I'm going to do just that by combining an afternoon of game dev with a gentle run, and rewarding myself with a lovely pint at a nice country pub in the process. Welcome back to the Point and Click devlog, an ongoing series in which I will do just about anything to avoid doing any real work. Okay, so the plan for today is as follows. I'm going to pack a running bag with my laptop, a change of clothes and some other bits and bobs, and head out to a country pub in a village not too far from here. So I'm going to start in a park nearby and then run all alongside the canal to that pub, where I will then get changed, grab a beer and do some game dev stuff for a couple of hours that I've been recently putting off. That route is about 4.5 miles or something like 7.2 kilometers in European money, but I don't want to run that both ways, so once I've done that I will catch the train from the station next door and ride it a few stops back towards home. Obviously 7k isn't a massive run by any means, but I've only really been doing 5k's of late, so it will be a bit outside my current comfort zone. And also there's the weight of the bag to consider, and the fact that I'll probably be stopping along the way to film some bits and pieces wherever I can, so all told the journey there might take like up to an hour instead of the 40 minutes it usually would. And then the train back will be something like 10 or 15 minutes. Either way, the plan for when we get there is to pull out the laptop and finish a room from my game by writing all the dialogue trees for this NPC, who goes by the name of Zeb. So, I mean, it's not much of an adventure, I know, but it is better than nothing and will at least get me out and about into the great outdoors, which is never a bad thing. In terms of kit for this, I'm going to be using the I Am Runbox Pro backpack, which I actually bought a couple of years ago for doing the occasional 10k run home from the office back when I worked and lived in London. I don't get to use it very often anymore, but it's a pretty awesome backpack for run commuting because it will hold a laptop, a change of clothes and a few other things really securely, crucially without the whole thing bouncing around. In fact, this bag pretty much feels like it's glued to your back or part of your back, and it has big wide straps that include side pockets on the waist for your phone and any extra little bits. I'm a sucker for a good backpack generally, and I think this one's especially great as a kind of utilitarian tool. So in there I'll be putting my laptop and some clothes, an old pair of Converse, a little MagSafe phone battery and a small Gorilla Stand tripod just in case I manage to remember to film myself doing any work. The headphones I use on my runs are the Jaybird Vistas, which are great in terms of being sweatproof and waterproof, and also because the case has a little built-in loop for my house key. And with the bag packed, it's time to go. Right. I'm tired. Right, let's get back on it. This bridge is basically it. So ordinarily there'd probably be a mid-roll advert around now, but I've recently been driven absolutely insane by the frequency and repetition of them when I've been watching YouTube, so I've decided to turn them off on all future videos. The impact of that won't be massive, so don't worry too much, but if you would like to help the channel grow, then I should probably plug the Patreon here. There's now only a $1 tier because you don't really get anything in return, but all your support is greatly appreciated. On that score, don't forget that the Point and Click Discord server is probably the single best place for indie adventure game developers to hang out, get advice, share their work and make friends. So I will link that and the Patreon in the description. Okay, here's the canal, and then this is the pub here. Nice outdoor space. This other building here is Jolly Fisherman, I believe. So yeah, that was a decent run overall. A bit warmer than I was expecting, and running with the bag for the first time in a long time was an extra factor, but you know, lovely day and lovely route. Annoyingly, I forgot to stop my watch immediately after all that, but in the end it was around 40 minutes for the 7k route. It took me a while to cool down before I eventually ventured in to get changed, and then another few minutes outside to keep cooling down before I went in and got set up, and crucially before I got myself that pint and a bag of crisps. And then it was time to do some actual game development. So as many of you know, I'm using the Adventure Creator plugin for Unity, which lets you write dialogue trees all with visual scripting. The way I normally go about setting this up is to create all the main conversation options, and then in the action list for, talk to NPC, I will start a conversation, choose the one that I've created, and then click override options, which lets you drag out a node from each of the core dialogue options and do literally everything in one pane. It's then just a case of going through and writing your conversations out. Sometimes this comes really easily, sometimes it's more difficult, but the task can be daunting either way, so it's often something I save to last for each scene, even though in the moment I often quite like doing it. And I also like having this big canvas in which to do everything for each NPC, and I like to try and keep things tidy where I can. I find organising this space to be quite zen. I don't know what that says about me. But either way, as and when the dialogue branches, I'll just create separate conversations and do the same override options thing, so you end up with this big nested tree that my computer can just about keep up with, depending on the size. So yeah, I managed to get the whole dialogue tree written out in the end. It's not an overly complicated one. Others in the game have lots of nested trees within nested trees, but it was nice to turn that burdensome job into something of an excursion today. Running for me has always been one of the only sports I really enjoy. I'm not naturally athletic, but I do think running is great for the mind. It can be a good source of inspiration, and it's a great time to turn things over in your head, whether that's a game development issue or anything else. In fact, I'll link a great video on why running is so good in the description. Like I say, I'm not a fast runner, but I do enjoy blowing the cobwebs away and using it as a time to sort thoughts into various boxes. And whilst I probably wouldn't advocate or recommend having a pint on a random weekday afternoon very regularly, this was a lovely few hours that felt productive and useful. I think it's always a good idea to not connect to Wi-Fi whenever possible, as that limits distractions and helps you really focus on one task, which was the case here. So yeah, I might try and make doing this a semi-regular thing and see how quick I can get that time down to this pub in particular, just maybe with a Coke going forwards. So look, thanks for coming with me on this weird little game dev excursion. I hope you've enjoyed watching it, because I had a nice time making it, and by filming the process, this was a real case of being able to kill several birds with one stone. If you want to subscribe and maybe like this video, that would be awesome, but no worries if not. Maybe I will see you in a future video either way.